Who do you have on your side now?
A very, very small group of people. When you look around and very close, trusted people who you would swear on your life would never, ever, ever cash you in, for lack of better words, and those people do that. And people leave your house and tell completely different stories. You tend not to trust people.
As expected, it's Monday, August 22nd, and Kate Gosselin is clapping back at Josh. You guys, I talk about Josh Duggar so much. At Jon Gosselin's claims that she stole $100,000 from her children's trust. Now, I want to just pin this for a second because I did a video last week and I told you that Jon was alleging that Kate stole $100,000 from the trust, and he was doing this because he needed everyone to know, because maybe the kids didn't know that she was taking money from him. And, you know, some of you have been very divided about Jon speaking out. Some of you think that Kate's a narcissist, and others of you think Jon is actually the one that is. And I don't know. I always go back and forth. I think the whole thing is a mess, personally. They've been a mess since day one. But some of you in the comments, when I said this last week, they were like, oh, that's real rich of you, Jon. You owe Kate child support. And I was like, does he? Does he really? I thought that they got rid of that. Like, I thought part of the agreement that he said was he would hand over custody to her, and then she wouldn't have to deal with child support and he wouldn't have to pay. At least that was the story that he put out about the back child support, okay? So he goes on, you know, the Sun magazine that maybe paid him for the interview, and he's got his people talking to In Touch, trying to like spread the story. You all are in my comments like, oh, Jon is a cheater. He owes her back child support. What a jerk. Some of you do still love Kate, so I'm not going to hate on you. I'm critical of her, but, you know, and when I read that, I was like, well, whoa, is that true? Well, now this is what her attorney says. So, and I was actually able to verify that there is an outstanding claim against Jon, and it's a lot. So this is what they said. He's Richard J. Polio, who spoke with Us Weekly, and he also spoke to In Touch. He said, Kate's integrity is impeccable. I can't say the same for Jon Gosselin. They allege that he has financial issues of his own and that he clearly owes her $132,875 in child support, not counting interest from the day that it was entered. So $132,000 in back child support from the day that it was entered. I pulled up a judgment that was filed against Jon in 2011, and it was a civil judgment tied to his address in Reading, Pennsylvania, for $142,000, $949. That's from 2011. I'm assuming it's that judgment and that judgment alone. But on top of that, another judgment, I guess this might be the one related to TLC and leaving the show, for over $1 million that he has owed to a company based out of Oregon. So Jon has a lot of money due to a lot of people. So he clearly owes Kate money for child support, and he's yelling at Kate for taking money from the trust to survive off of when he didn't pay child support for the kids. Maybe you guys were on to something. They said that In Touch reported as well that the same attorney said, I have no knowledge of her taking any money from a trust fund. And he says, I can attest that Kate has impeccable integrity. They also confirmed the same judgment that I just told you about with the IRS, or it was a judgment placed on the property. And Jon's rep did not respond at all to comments about this. There was another one, which is, so Jon and Kate don't speak at all. They only speak through attorneys, and it's probably better this way because, You know what I think is really bizarre in all of this is that, and I've always said this since day one, is that Jon always runs to the media. Like he goes on Dr. Oz and he goes on, I think it's Dr. Oz. He's been on, and he runs to The Sun and to Us Weekly or whatever, In Touch. And he does these interviews where he talks about his ex-girlfriend and their breakup, and then she kind of shaded him and basically called him sort of like absent or whatever. And Kate has not publicly had a presence at all and hasn't really responded. The only time she ever responded was when Jon was accused of hitting his son Colin, and she said that he's a ABUSC ER. It's always been hard for me to navigate this. Like, are they both just toxic? Is it just one of them? Is it always been like this? I don't know. You know, you saw a side of Kate on the show where she was very controlling. Was that in conjunction with the fact that he was lazy? You know, there's always like two sides to every story. I don't know. So making matters worse is the two of them have never been able to be amicable with each other or even have a conversation or even like parent together. And so an insider actually told In Touch today that they communicate through their attorneys, and it's been that way for years. The only time they ever see each other is in court. And apparently the kids were upset about their mom taking money from them. It says the kids in Jon's custody, Hannah and Colin, are aware of what's gone on and they feel terrible about it. They expected to get some money in their bank accounts, and it's had been drained, and she took it from all the kids. These kids deserve better. They worked very hard throughout their life, and they didn't choose to go on the show, and that was the life that was chosen for them. So they did have to set up trusts for the kids while they were on the show, and apparently that's drained. But here's the thing, and I just want to be sort of Switzerland again, is if you are Kate and your show gets canceled because Jon goes on television and he makes all these reports and says that you didn't have the proper permits, and then TLC fires you, then you end up losing your source of income, and he doesn't make it so you can film anymore, even though he was part of the reason why your kids filmed to begin with, right? You guys made that decision together as husband and wife. He didn't want to be on the show anymore. Then he kind of like made it difficult for them to film. Fine. So now he's accusing her of taking money from the trust, but then he hasn't paid child support. In a way, if he would have been paying child support, would she have had to use the money that she took from the trust? Completely playing devil's advocate here. Would Kate have had to take money out of their trust had Jon actually paid the child support? If he owns $142,000 or $132,000 plus interest, which is over $150,000 according to the liens and the information that Kate's attorneys have claimed, is it possible that she had to dip into that because she had no support coming from him and the 6 kids, and she was still, even though he had, you know, control of, even though he had custody of Hannah and Colin, she's having to pay her own way and take care of the rest of the family. Had he just paid child support, would she have been in that situation? And playing devil's advocate, just to be Switzerland again, is Jon going to the media to constantly drag Kate to hide his own financial problems and to handle his own mistakes that he's made as a father? So is he still reeling from what he believes was a smear campaign that they did on him on TLC and made him look like the deadbeat dad that cheated, that he said never cheated? Now I don't even know if that's true. I don't know. So is he doing this? Is this like a vendetta? Because if this is true and Kate took money from the trust and he owes Kate money for child support, why doesn't Jon pay them back then? I mean, he owes $150,000. Why doesn't he pay some of that back to the trust, since he apparently wasn't paying child support? That's a lot of money that's due. That's a lot of child support he hasn't paid. In some states, he would be in jail, like for that amount due that he hasn't paid. And the kids are not minors anymore, and that judgment is just going to stay outstanding. He has to pay that money. I'm surprised she hasn't gone on to collect it. I don't know if they have some sort of stipulation, but the judgment still exists. It's still out there. And there's another $1 million judgment that he has out with a company, which I'm assuming might be the breach of contract he had when he left TLC. He owes over $1 million in liens. And he's yelling at Kate for living off the trust of their kids when he didn't pay child support. Is that a hypocritical thing to say? And is it hypocritical to constantly run to the media to air out your ex? Do you think that's going to help reunite him with the kids that are still with her? If you were a kid that was under Kate and living with Kate and loved Kate, and you were part of the 6 that still lived with her, were still in a relationship with her and still loyal to her, would what Jon's doing, would that make you want to reunite with your dad? Or would it just really solidify what your mom has said about your dad? I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. Hannah and Colin say that they're happier with Jon, but is Jon the kind of dad that doesn't have rules and is the cool dad and takes them out in parties? You know, you don't know. Is he the better dad? I don't know. Is there a reason why those kids don't want to be around their dad besides what he claims is the real, like that it's parental alienation? What if it was something else? Devil's advocate. I want to hear what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.